left Daniel Pett, and I think some of you might know me. There's a few of my colleagues in the room, people who know much more about Portable Antiquities Schemes than me in some ways. It's actually the sharp end stuff. Now I'm going to try and talk about the barriers that are presented to archaeologists who work at the British Museum, and specifically with the audience for Portable Antiquities Scheme. Does everyone know what Portable Antiquities Scheme is in the room? If you don't know what they are, just say and I can explain a little bit more. You might find it becomes apparent from this. And you can see more about Sísyphos as we go along. It's just one thing that you might know more about. Now, the Portable Antiquities Scheme has been online since 2001. It was originally founded by the HLF. They gave us £3 million for 3 years, and then we've been funded through DCMS ever since. We now have over 750,000 objects online, which are freely available to the public. At the moment, they're under a Creative Commons license, which is CC BY non-commercial. Now, as soon as I release this version of the website, which is here, we're going open to CC BY, so you can use the information without any restriction whatsoever, apart from saying where it came from. And we've noticed that when we've given the license freely away on our images, the actual uptake of them is actually shot up by a huge magnitude. So I'm hoping by making all our information freely available, it will go zoom up. I'm going to show you some stuff about Wikipedia in a little while about how they used our data. That data has been used in very different ways to the way I envisaged it. I think that's what everyone who works on the web finds out. You cannot regulate who uses your information, really. Once it's up there, people do what they want. You can't stop them. Since 2006, I've been completely responsible for the website. Taught myself how to code, taught myself to do lots of different bits and pieces. I've learned a whole new skill set just to work in archaeology. Because one of the barriers was breaking down that knowledge lab, and I think I'm actually getting there now. The most recent build cost me £48. Now originally, it cost £150,000 to put that website online. Now £150,000 in archaeology is a lot of money. To have an IT project, that's a very small amount of money. I worked in the city for 2 years, and we had £15 million just to buy desktop computers for a training floor of 300. So you can see where there's a disparity in where funding goes. And if they give me lots of money, I'm sure I could achieve lots of different things. I wouldn't be doing coding for a start. I have some team of people in Bangalore doing the work for me. Now, our online audience is growing rapidly. Last year, 500,000 people came and visited our website. So 500,000 people are interested in archaeology, apparently. I'll talk a little bit more about global impact later on. Now, we have about 20,000 contributors. So where are the other 480,000 people coming from? Are they coming via Google? Are they coming because they've done work with, say, Kate or Kath, who are in the room at the moment? Or are they just interested in artefacts? Not sure. Well, we can find out a little bit more. So the annual budget for my project is £4,000. That pays for the server hosting costs, bandwidth, backup. Backup is probably the most important thing when you start doing a digital project. If you have no backup and your website goes down, you're stuck. We all know this through experience. Our website disappeared for a bit because you didn't have backup. Now I think you have backup. Stuart is in the room. They do backup in a big scale for the ADS, and he knows how hard it is to actually do properly. Now, at the scheme, we have accounts on most social media. I think Hugh's going to talk very much about social media stuff as well, and what they had to do in heritage. It's not easy, and it's not cheap. In terms of time, time is one of the biggest barriers to participation online. That's time for you, it's time for me, and time for anyone else who's involved in that. So what gets the biggest interest? It's stories that grasp the media's attention. So let's think of, say, the Staffordshire Hoard. That got a huge amount of hits on our website. Now, hits is a really silly measure to actually use for saying, you come to our website. Now, our traditional audience at the scheme is 48%, and the lowest social classes as defined by the government. You can see here Barry Cunliffe on the left. Now, he's absolutely terrible with computers. I think you probably won't mind me saying this. He's been taught by Frank Basford how to use our database. He's not been back since. Now, I wonder if that's because he's not interested, or if we do research for him. There's different things in the way people use our information. Who's actually used our website in this room? There's a few people. That's actually more than I thought it might be. So this just gives you a small overview of where we are on social media at the moment. Not all of them are equal in the way I use them. I haven't got time to actually populate them completely. So at the moment, Pinterest, I'm not using very much. YouTube, we've got a few videos. But now we're more closely with the British Museum. I've got to go through their corporate style. As you might notice with my template for the PowerPoint today, I've incorporated it out slightly. We have a Facebook page. The British Museum's not very happy we have our own social media presence because they can't control what's going on there. But we're a separate entity as far as I'm concerned, as far as my boss is concerned. We want to be the Portable Antiquities Scheme based at the British Museum, not the British Museum department in many ways. So experimentation is key. Does anyone got a QR reader on their phone? Does anyone want to try that out? I'll tell you straight away, it goes directly to our website. Now, QR codes are the bane of many people's online existence. Are they worthwhile? Well, they are if they're used properly. On our website, every record has got QR codes, so when someone brings their objects to be recorded, they're given a printout with a QR code on it. They can then scan that and get taken directly to the web page and so on. We see it in other places where they're put up just for the sake of it, say in galleries where they've got a QR code, which gives you more information than the label. Now, have people thought about, have you got free bandwidth in the museum? We don't have free Wi-Fi in the British Museum at the moment, so you're paying to use the access yourself. So you're charging the visitor again to use information. You might have dodgy Wi-Fi, so you can't connect. Some museums do a very good job of this. The Grant Museum has done a very good job with QR codes for the curator. I'm not sure if anyone's going to mention that again later.
I am.
Okay. And then I've also experimented lots with Google Maps. I've learned loads of stuff using Google Maps now. I'm using different layers, so for Street Map. I'm actually going to have to go away from Google Maps quite soon because I can't afford to use it. We're getting 25,000 page views a day, which is their limit for free usage. I get on very well with people there, and I'm hoping they might cut me a deal. But we'll see. It's a very big barrier if you're successful to using web applications. Can you actually all see this? Is it too bright here? You should turn my lights off.
I've got traffic noise coming in my ear as well, Dan, so...
Speak up a bit more. So many of you know this chap, and I use this quote regularly. Back in 1996, he was very sure that our computing collections weren't available and in a very good state to be used. Now, we're 16 years on. Are we in a better state at the moment? Well, yes and no. I think we are putting much more information online, but why? Who's using that information, and is it useful? Does Pat actually get anything out of the Warm Mesolithic collection online at the moment? British Museum, I imagine, he gets very frustrated. You put a search word in, you get nothing back that you search for. It's very much the same with Portable Antiquities at the moment, in some ways. So what I've been developing for the last 6 months is a new search engine, which does sort of Google keyword search, and gets you hits and refines the search via facets. There's not many other sites out there that can afford to do facets. It's very hard to do properly. So there's big barriers between producer and consumer. Now, I'm a producer, you're hopefully consuming resources. I think it's going to be the same for everyone who's producing and not producing websites. Fully read that cartoon. I used to do IT support. I still get asked stupid questions by everyone who I work with. Where do I find this? Have you done a search? No, I thought you should tell me. So you do have to do a lot of physical work, actually communicating with your visitors as well, even though you're online. Thinking, well, I can find it. Can you find it? It's obvious to me. Might not be obvious to you. So what are the barriers to the producer? Well, it's a big sword of Damocles hanging over me at the moment. I've got no funding, and I've got no resource apart from me. So I can't afford to sort of disappear for 6 months and nothing happened. My wife just had a baby, so I've had 6 weeks off. So I'm now 6 weeks behind in my development schedule. That was a barrier of participation for me. But I started to get around that. We've also got quite a draconian local IT policy. It means I can't install stuff. Well, I know what I'm doing, so I can. So I'll go around and I'll use my own computer at home if I really need to do some stuff. When we were originally funded, the HLF money stopped. How was that website going to continue? We had to do identify funding for that. Quite often websites disappear. That's where the ADS might come in and perhaps offer to host the data. Sometimes the data might be dynamic and change every single day, and they can't take a snapshot daily because they just don't have a resource to deal with that information. Now, you're reliant on me to build that website. I've written the code. Does that mean anyone else can understand that code? Possibly not. When I took over building our website, it had been written in Belarusian. I don't speak Belarusian. I had no idea what they were doing, so I started again from scratch. There's often a really big problem, a lack of vision between management and what you want to do. Now, I think we're quite lucky with where I work, because we see the web as key to disseminating our information. So it's okay for us, but other institutions might find that the web is an adjunct to work. It's very low down the list of priorities. Is the web everything? No, it's not. It's just a supplement to what people are doing. Not everyone's online. There's a big digital divide in this country still. Not everyone wants to use computers. My father can just about Google. I think everyone knows someone who's not very good with a computer, but might be interested in information. Quite often someone might come to Kate and say, I like information on the finds found around Blackfriars. Can you print off the information for me? Rather than them saying, well, I've got a computer at home, but I'll just go and look for it. Not everyone might have a computer. The other big thing I've got is data security. We collect a lot of information on find spots. You as archaeologists think, well, the find spots should be made public to everyone who wants to use our information, just so you can do research. People who give us information say no, so I have to think of methods of actually hiding that information. Personal details for Data Protection Act. I've got 20,000 people details on my computer at work. If that goes missing, I'm in trouble. I might have to pay a big fine for that. Hopefully I won't lose it. Time constraint is the really big issue for me. I've only got a certain amount of time. I actually quite like going out and seeing my friends. But quite often I go home and I'll work when I get back. I imagine that's safe for most of you. So what are the barriers to the consumer? Well, I've been doing web stuff for 12 years now. Most of the time, the biggest barrier is rubbish aesthetic of a website, really poor usability. If people can't use the interface, they won't come back. 5 minutes is quite a good sticking point if you come into a website. Again, you've got big IT policies that stop you using services. If you've been in the HR forum recently, you've been very frustrated with some of the comments that are on there, thinking that no one's got any vision about stuff going online. Martin knows exactly what I'm talking about. Now, the Isle of Wight stopped people using Flickr. We use Flickr heavily on our website for disseminating images, so they can't see our website. So I've had to ring up the IT person and say, look, we're not doing anything dodgy with it, all we're doing is disseminating images and backing up. They go, okay, I can see what you want to do now. Also, lack of skills to interrogate data sets or websites. People don't really understand what they're trying to get out of it. They might see the web address on the TV program and go, well, it's going to be easy. I'll find everything I want on that website in one go. But they don't realise they might have to register, or they might have to do a certain thing first. So recaptures, where you have to put in a word before you can register. That puts lots of people off. It stopped my spammers by 75% by pushing that online. So I'm quite happy by doing that. You have very slow network services. Norfolk, on a really terribly slow connection. Sarah's in Suffolk. Your connection's only just got better, I believe, that she was telling me. And it was really slow. You were doing, I think, 10% of your usual output. Really slow. So it's a big problem for after protection. You're not funded in the same way as most businesses, so you're not going to have a lot of resources put into the infrastructure. Many people are fearful of the unknown stuff as well, because they don't know what they're going to do. And there's a restricted license for use. Now, the ADS has got one annoying thing for me. You have to click I accept for every single place that you use. And that does put lots of people off. I do lots of code-based things, so I do submitting via code to your script if I want to scrape data off. So you fully know about that. There's no documentation on what to do. I haven't got time to write documentation. If someone would like to do it for me, I'll be very happy. An impact. Are you making an impact on resources? I think Hugh might talk about impact, possibly, because that's one of the big things. If you're putting stuff online and it's not being used or making an impact on people's lives, why are they coming back? If you're measuring hits, out now, please. Hits are a waste of time. The big measure for us is unique visitors. How many times someone's been back to your website individually? How long they stay, so if they looked at one page and then left. If it's one page, there might be a museum website, and they've actually found out what opening times were, and that's it. That's all they need to know. But with my resources, I want them to stay and look at 20 pages. I think the record on our website is 675 pages looked at in one session, and they stayed for an hour and a half. Now, let's say, could they find the information? Well, I've looked at the visitor files, and actually they're looking for a specific data set. They weren't just sort of going, oh, I'm not really sure what's going on here. Is your site search engine friendly? Now, that's actually not too difficult. Semantically, you have headers and footers and know how to write. If you're worried about followers, then you really need to get out of the game. It's about actually communicating with people. It's having conversations. When we see these museums saying, oh, we need to get 100,000 followers, but they don't actually communicate back with them, what's the point in many ways? It's dialogue. If you've got no authority behind you, are people actually going to stay and stick around to listen to you? And you definitely don't need social media or search engine optimization because I can split any of the work you're doing. You can do it yourself. Just do some reading. It's very easy to get stuff at the top of Google. This is for Roman coins. We've been on top of Google for Roman coins for 6 years now. And it's just been by semantically writing web pages. If you spread your information around freely, this is under open license, these images, they're from stuff which is all, they want to Wikipedia, get hundreds of thousands of people looking at pages on Wikipedia. Basically, people might not know anything about your work, they find it here. Through serendipity, they come to your website. Possibly Garrett Helmet, I gave them an image for Wikipedia for one I took from the auction house, because no one would give them freely licensed images to actually use. And I think some people might be outraged about where that went, and some people won't. Not everyone understands why archaeology is important in this country. The biggest problem for me is the internet troll. They sit under the bridges, they really do. And we used to have a forum, it had 600 members, it wasn't very big, 17,000 comments. It's got a huge impact on staff time moderating this stuff. And anyone who monitors Twitter accounts or Facebook knows how much time and effort you have to put into looking after these things. The British Museum at the moment has got a big problem in Nepal, because we've got a label in one of our galleries that puts Nepal in the wrong place. And so they've been bombarding our social media with comments about that, and they just will not let it go. Can you cope with that vexatious posting? you've got to have downtime at weekends. Do you shut down your social media at weekends? Well, no, because lots of people at home have free time at weekends. So do you ask one of your staff members to look after your weekends? It's a bit of a horrible cycle in many ways. So what did I mention Sísyphos? Well, it's exactly how I feel most of the time when I'm working. I am pushing this huge rock up a hill every day. I go home, next day I'm doing exactly the same thing with firefighting most of the time, trying to keep things up to date. Technology changes so fast, you can't actually keep up. Now, our latest database is 2 years old. It's really out of date now. The technology behind it is so slow, and I've got to rebuild again. Another 2 years' time, I'm still doing the same job, I have to rebuild it again. It's just a cycle that I want to get out of. You have to remember that you can never please everyone with your website or your social media presence. You'll always upset someone. Don't worry about it. It's not just you. I think other people who are doing social media and stuff know it from actual conversation they've had online. You get arguments so easily. And you do not have time to complete what you set out to do. Remember, time is one of the biggest constraints you'd ever have. So, in summary, just to tell you what I think are the biggest barriers, it's time, lack of knowledge, skills to actually do the stuff, visibility, accessibility, and the realisation that we're working in a very niche audience. I think archaeology doesn't have a huge following. It's just the big finds that might actually grasp people's imagination. Things like Stuff and Who, or a big story out in the press. So just think about who you're writing stuff for, and target them, and make sure your content's applicable and good and up to date. Thank you very much.